Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your favorite cricket fan channel, Willow and Leather. This is Shravan once again with you today. As promised a few days ago, I am doing a video to do a quick recap of the Major League Cricket Season 2 that just concluded a couple of days ago. Right, so let's get on with the video. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. All right, let's talk about MLC, Cognizant MLC 2024. Just concluded. Washington Freedom turning out to be the eventual champions, and what an incredible and dominant performance from Washington Freedom all through the tournament. I think there was a point halfway through the tournament where I was thinking this team could pretty much not lose a single game. They did lose one game, however, against San Francisco Unicorns in the group stages. But they made sure that that mistake would not be repeated again as they squared off against the Unicorns once more in the finals. But what a comprehensive win, both in the finals, but also such an incredibly dominant performance all through the tournament as well. So absolutely well deserved title for them. They become the second team in what hopefully will be a long running history for MLC to be crowned as the champions. First of all, I think the credit should start right from the top of the tree. The owners themselves, Mr. Govil, and everyone else who's been involved with this franchise have put in a lot of work and effort to be able to identify the right kind of talent that needs to be brought in into this team, especially after last year's performance. They did put up a really good show last season as well, but I think the ownership kind of quickly realized that they needed a few key players in that mix, especially in the batting lineup, to be able to take this team a step further and actually compete to bring the title home. And man, oh man, this off season they did a complete overhaul of the batting. But let's start from the first person that they obviously ironed or handpicked to lead this team forward, which would be the coach himself, Ricky Ponting. Now, Ricky, obviously, stellar playing career and has done an incredibly good job as a coach in some of the other leagues as well. And especially for a tournament in its nascent stage like MLC, I think having someone like a Ricky Ponting to kind of instill that sense of discipline and that sense of belief in the team, I think was very, very important. And I think they hit the nail on the head by bringing in Ricky Ponting. Now, what followed after Ricky Ponting was an entire barrage of Aussie players that came in as well. Steve Smith coming in and being appointed the captain of the team, which at that point to me seemed very, very surprising. I felt it was a very strange decision, especially given the fact that Steve Smith has not really been around in the T20 scene for a good 3-4 years now, right? At least not in the big renowned leagues around the world anyway. But they showed faith in him, and look, there is no question or doubt about Steve Smith as a leader and as a captain. But the more fundamental question was, would he actually even be a good fit in the team as a batsman himself, given his not so great T20 record of late. But they made that decision up front. Steve Smith appointed as the captain, and some of the other players that they brought in, Travis Head, Glenn Maxwell, and Rachin Ravindra. So when you think of those names, those are probably some of the biggest names going around in world cricket, who were not already part of MLC last year. So to be able to bring in such massive names, I think a lot of credit has to go to the owners there, and they completely transformed that batting lineup. Now you have guys like Steve Smith and Travis Head opening, with the likes of Rachin Ravindra and Glenn Maxwell to follow. So I think that really set up a great platform for them. And of course, with the bowling department as well, I think they did fantastically well to trade around a couple of players. Now, they already had the likes of Saurabh Netravalkar and Marco Jansen from last season, who are two very bankable bowlers for them. But in addition to that, they brought in someone like a Lockie Ferguson from LA Knight Riders, which I thought was a great move. I think it gave them that X factor with respect to just bringing some additional pace into the department there. Also brought in someone like an Andrew Tye. Didn't really feature too much in the initial games, but when he got his chances, he grabbed them, and also bowled a pretty good spell in the finals as well. So all credit to the think tank there for identifying the right personnel, making those smart trades in the off season, and also making some big buys in the off season as well to bring into this franchise. So absolute credit to the entire backroom staff and the ownership to put in that effort to put such a strong team together. But I think it's one thing to put a strong team together on paper, but for them to come in, especially in short tournaments like this, coming from different parts of the world, just getting together, gelling along, and then actually to put in those performances, I think a lot of that credit has to go to Ricky Ponting and Steve Smith as well. I think that core leadership group with that Aussie contingent, I think, has made a massive impact to this franchise. So all credit to the entire group there. Right. So that was Washington Freedom, and obviously the main man for that team in terms of performances turned out to be the captain himself, Steve Smith. What an incredible season for him, and I think this tournament could very well have revived his hopes and his chances of featuring in some of the other bigger T20 leagues around the world as well. I think there'll be a good few franchises from across different leagues who will now be looking at Steve Smith as a very viable option, especially given the fact that he brings along that leadership and that experience as well. I'm sure there'll be a lot of franchises around the world who will be looking at Steve Smith a little bit differently now after this particular tournament, because it's not just about the number of runs he scored, but the manner in which he scored them. Very, very aggressive, very innovative as well. We got to see tons of ramp shots and all sorts of innovative shots from him, along with some of those classical shots that he's known to play in other formats as well. So absolutely fantastic season for Steve Smith, leading from the front, and getting the best out of other folks on the team as well. And from the bowling department, that man, Saurabh Netravalkar, once again turned out to be the highest wicket taker of the season across all teams. Once more, an absolutely fantastic effort from him. He put in a rock solid performance last season as well, but to come back again, I think he's just grown from strength to strength. We saw the kind of performances he put together for Team USA in the recently concluded T20 World Cup, and I think he's just continuing from there and just growing one step at a time. And the man just does not know how to pick up smaller wickets. He always goes and gets those big names from the opposition out. It's incredible to see him come and pick those crucial wickets at the right times for the team. So absolute credit and kudos to him as well. Well done, Saurabh Netravalkar. Right. Besides the Washington Freedom, the finalists, obviously the runners-up, were San Francisco Unicorns. I think the team was kind of on and off. I think they were driven to this point largely based on some individual brilliance from the likes of Finn Allen, who provided a couple of blistering innings for them, and a few key contributions here and there. Krishnamurthy turned out to be like the biggest surprise package, along with Hassan as well. I think those are the two relatively unknown names for someone who doesn't follow the domestic cricket scene in the US. But to see them kind of step up and put in some absolute game-changing performances were great to see. I think Corey Anderson being the captain, I think he led the team fairly well, and I think they pretty much got the most out of all the players. I think Jake Fraser-McGurk was probably one of the bigger disappointments of the tournament for that particular team. I think they would have been banking on him to kind of carry forward his form from the IPL, but unfortunately, didn't really get going this time around. But he's still a young lad. I'm sure, he's going to continue growing as well. So I hope that the Unicorns continue showing faith in him, and, hopefully he can start repaying some of that faith that the franchise puts in him. The other key addition to that particular team was Pat Cummins. came in kind of after the first 3 or 4 games for the team, which is why probably Corey Anderson was named as the captain instead of Pat Cummins. But when he came in, he definitely started making an impact with the ball. He's one of the smartest bowlers going around, always knows what kind of deliveries to use against what type of batsman, at what situations in the game, on what kind of surfaces. So he's absolutely, very, very methodical and very smart in the way he approaches his bowling spells. So it is great to see him kind of continue putting up good performances as well. But yeah, that was San Francisco Unicorns finishing as the runners up. Definitely a market improvement from last season, but I'm sure they will want to push further and try and get the title next time. The other two teams to make it to the playoffs, Texas Super Kings. Again, one of those teams which seems to have all the ingredients, but hasn't really fired on all cylinders, to be honest, over the last couple of seasons, making it to the playoffs both times, but unfortunately, losing out, not making it to the finals on both occasions now. So that should definitely be hurting them. But on the positive side, Faf du Plessis went on an incredible run of form this time around, scored a lot of runs, including a century that he scored here in Morrisville, and I had the privilege to witness it firsthand as well. So that was definitely a good positive sign for Texas Super Kings. Faf du Plessis last year around was in probably the worst form that I've seen him in, which is surprising because he did come off a good IPL season last year as well. But this time he made sure that he carried forward that form that he found later in the later part of the IPL and really brought it through this edition of the MLC as well. In addition to that, seeing Devon Conway score some crucial knocks as well was great to see. The fact that he was just coming back from injury, missed out on the IPL this time due to that injury. So the fact that he was able to come and get into good form right away, I think that's a great sign for him and the other franchises and the country that he'll play for as well. So that's good for them. But again, I think Texas Super Kings will be a little disappointed, especially given they are the only team to be playing at their home venue for a bulk of their games as well, and all the playoff matches happening in Texas too. I think they will feel like they've let down their fans a little bit this time around as well. Right, fourth team to make it to the playoffs was MI New York, making it to the playoffs by the barest of margins. To be honest, they were very, very poor this time around. I think Rashid Khan was probably the only silver lining in that team, doing exceptionally well with the ball, scoring some very quick and handy runs lower down the order as and when he got chances with the bat as well. But I think it was mostly the big names in the batting order that let that team down. Nicholas Pooran, I'm sure folks would have been hoping for a lot more from him, but unfortunately not coming good this time around. And the same thing with Kyron Pollard as well. Nothing of note with the bat either, unfortunately. So yeah, defending champions, you would have expected a lot more from MI New York, but their campaign kind of fizzled out. And you felt like, it's a matter of time before they turn things around, and it was probably just a matter of one game where things would click and they would kick on from there. But unfortunately, that game never came about, and the campaign kind of fizzled out. And despite barely clawing their way into the playoffs, they couldn't really go any further than that. Right, so the two teams which did not make it to the playoffs, LA Knight Riders, unfortunately, again, missing out this time. Very poor performance overall once more. Sunil Narayan being the captain this time, not coming good with the bat, kind of following the same template that he did at Kolkata Knight Riders this season, which was to open the batting. Absolutely did not work this time around, unfortunately for him and for the team. Captaincy wise as well, I think he was all right, nothing extraordinary. But yeah, I think guys like Sunil Narayan not performing was a big deal for LA Knight Riders. Andre Russell did reasonably well with the ball and got like a few small knocks with the bat as well. But again, probably not making as significant an impact as the team would have been hoping for. Unmukh Chand, he was a batsman who got 2 or 3 decent scores. I think he scored 250s, which are like very crucial knocks and turned out to be match-winning knocks for the team. But I think They would have wanted a little bit more from Unmukh Chand as well. I think it was a hit or a miss for him. I think the days where he went or where he scored runs, he scored well and resulted in the team's wins. But when he wasn't scoring, he just wasn't scoring any runs at all. Hopefully, he can kind of bring a little bit more consistency to his game next season around, because I think it's going to be an important season for him as well, especially if he is looking to really try and make a push for an entry into that USA team heading into the 2026 World Cup. I think it's a very, very crucial season for him next year around, and all the other domestic games that he will play leading up to that as well. I think those are going to be absolutely critical for him. There were definitely good sparks of talent and skill shown from some of these players, but again, not really translating into something sizable, unfortunately, for LAKR. And the last team, Seattle Orcas. Man, this probably was like the biggest disappointment of all. Runners up last time, had put in such a wonderful string of performances last year, but they fell completely flat this time. Firstly, a change in leadership there as well. Heinrich Klaassen was the captain this time around. And again, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. This is the first time I'm seeing him in a captaincy role. So I don't want to be, too quick in dealing out judgment here, but it didn't really look like he was able to inspire the team to stronger performances. It wasn't really helped by his own lack of personal batting form as well. Him and De Kock both not really firing for the team. I think that was probably the biggest letdown for the team as a whole. And I think it's a little understandable as well, and a little unfair to the players too, because these guys are just coming off of a heartbreaking loss in the T20 World Cup finals. And within a week they're already here playing games for a franchise. Yes, I understand they're getting paid to play, and they've been associated with this franchise for 2 years now. I get all of that. But psychologically and mentally, I don't think they were in the right frame of mind to be able to come back into competitive cricket so soon after such a heartbreaking loss, right? I mean, they pretty much had that T20 World Cup in their hands, and they somehow found a way to lose it. And it takes a while for even the best of players to recover from that kind of let down, unfortunately, right? So it would have made sense for them to probably take a longer break and then come in maybe midway through the tournament. But then again, they did show that level of commitment to be available from the get-go. But yeah, I think mentally they were probably not in the right space. So De Kock, Heinrich Klaassen, and even David Miller at LA Knight Riders, for example, didn't really have a good season either. So I felt like probably all these players should have taken a slightly longer break. But then again, hopefully this team can turn things around. Klaassen and De Kock can hopefully turn things around next season for the Orcas, and get back to winning ways soon, and hopefully mount a challenge for challenge for the title once more, instead of languishing at the bottom of the table, because I think they are a much better team than that. Right, so that was a quick summary of the overall teams and how they performed, how some of the key players did. Now, let me just quickly spend a couple of minutes maybe talking about my own experience attending some of the games here in Morrisville. First of all, I have to say I am I consider myself incredibly lucky and fortunate to be able to witness players of that quality and caliber playing in my hometown in Morrisville now, right? It is absolutely unfathomable. 2 years ago, if someone would have told me that players like some of these South African stars that I mentioned, some of these Australian stars, Maxwell, Head, Andre Russell, Sunil Narayan, Nicholas Pooran, Kyron Pollard, Dwayne Bravo, Faf du Plessis, Devon Conway, if someone had told me that players of this quality are going to be playing at Church Street, our ground, like we play on this ground every once in a while, right? So we have been playing cricket on this ground for the last 7-8 years now. So the fact that players like that would come and play on grounds that we play in, and we get to witness them so up close and in person, I would have, absolutely lost my mind, which I did first time around when we heard that the MLC was coming. But for, our good fortune here, I guess, for Morrisville residents. I think we got an opportunity again this year to host some games, which was an absolutely great experience overall in terms of just the fact that we got to see some of these big teams and big names playing in front of us again. And I absolutely thoroughly appreciate and enjoy every moment of it, because very likely down the line, if not next year, maybe the year after that, most of these franchises are going to have their own home teams or home venues that they will build. I know some of the franchises are already working on it. The stadiums are in the works. Texas Super Kings obviously already has a stadium there in Dallas. So it's probably just a matter of time before all the other teams will have their own venues, and very likely we might not necessarily get games here at Morrisville anymore. So I'm fully aware of that fact, and knowing that, I really appreciate and understand the significance of what has happened here over the last couple of years with MLC coming to Morrisville. I don't know, unfortunately, if the town realizes it or not, but one way or the other, I think they have to do a better job of improving some of the conditions so that it becomes a more enjoyable and pleasurable experience for both the spectators and the players as well. Now, if folks looked at the schedule this time around for MLC, all the games that were happening in Morrisville started at around 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon, irrespective of whether it was a weekend game or a weekday game. Now, a few of us were fortunate enough to, still be able to take some time away from our busy days at work and, come and watch those games, most of those games at least, even on weekdays. But not a whole lot of folks can actually do that. They don't have the luxury to do that. So the fact that most of the games or all the games were day games here was kind of a bummer, because of which obviously the attendance wasn't too great either. Now, we have seen how cricket crazy Morrisville as a town is last year, right? If you have to look at the level of fan following that we have for cricket here in this area and the support we have for the cricket community as a whole, you have to look at the attendance last year. But unfortunately, from what I heard from multiple players and organizers, the quality of the floodlights here in the Morrisville Stadium weren't up to the mark. So the intensity of the light from these floodlights wasn't sufficient enough for players to be comfortable facing bowlers bowling at 90-95 miles per hour, which is understandable, which is why I think the players had an issue last time around, because of which they didn't want to play under those lights. Now, it is very unfortunate that the town of Morrisville couldn't really prioritize this and actually find the required budgets and funds to be able to make changes to those floodlights to make them on par with ICC quality, which kind of sucks. And we saw a result of that was a direct impact on the attendance and the number of spectators who showed up to watch these games. Nobody's going to show up at 3 p.m. on a Monday afternoon unless you are a diehard fan and you actually have that luxury of being able to carve out some time away from work to be able to come and attend those games. So that I thought was an absolute bummer. And also the fact that the weather gods didn't really help us out this time around either. We had at least 2 full washout games. One game got washed out before the minimum number of overs could be finished, and then another game was washed out, or another game was a rain curtailed game as well, but we did get a result out of it. But again, it's a mix of things like this that probably might have left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouth, which I totally get and I understand. And look, despite being an avid cricket fan myself, yeah, I would have preferred, watching the games under lights in cooler temperatures. Because on the days when it wasn't raining, it was more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit here on most days. And to be sitting in the sun, and again, the stands as well, right? First year you were putting things together, scrambling to put things together, I understand, so you put up the bleachers, but it's year 2 and you still don't have any kind of cover or shelter over these bleachers, so people are literally there baking in the sun or getting drenched in the rain. So that I think was a bummer as well. So I really hope that the town of Morrisville actually coughs up the money to actually try and improve the facilities there, which would make it an absolutely great venue. I think the pitch played pretty well this time around, much better than it did last time. So if they can actually fix things like the floodlight situation and get some better cover for the stands as well, I think this venue can continue to be a very, very successful one for MLC. As I said, the following is there, the audience is there, the appetite is there. I mean, the local cricket league that runs here, there are about 45 leather ball teams that play in the local league here. That should give you an idea of how many people are actually actively involved in the cricket scene here. And there are 120 tennis ball teams that play. 120 tennis ball teams in just one league here, right? So that should give you a fair sense of how many people in this area play cricket, follow cricket. And these are just players I'm talking about, right? There are people who watch cricket but don't necessarily play as well. So all in all, I think this is a fantastic place where they can continue, hosting a lot of these MLC matches going forward. And I really wish and hope that they do continue doing that. But for that, I think the town needs to really step up its game and make sure that it becomes an inviting venue for the players and for the organizers as well. So yeah, let's hope that they can make a few updates, and hopefully we get to see MLC back here in Morrisville next year as well, because it has been an incredible experience, right? And the reason I say that is because in addition to seeing these players and meeting these players up close in person in the ground itself, some of us had the privilege of meeting them in other locations outside of the grounds too. So some of us were volunteers for certain things with the event itself, or organizing and stuff like that. One way or the other, it's a very tight knit cricket community here, so a lot of us actually had that privilege of talking and meeting some of these players as well. Now I personally had a chance to talk to a lot of people too. I got the privilege of talking to Saurabh Netravalkar for a good few minutes. I think we spoke for like half an hour, 45 minutes, because one of my close friends and neighbors, he is actually Saurabh's classmate from high school as well. So knowing Saurabh Netravalkar, I think my friend was able to get in touch with him while he was here, and Saurabh was kind enough to agree to meet us and chat with us at the hotel he was staying at. So it was a great experience, fantastic experience. We talked to him about nothing but cricket. I'm sure the guy probably gets bored of talking about cricket even with other people outside the cricket circle as well. But I guess that's the nature of the kind of popularity that he's gained now, I guess, is that everyone just wants to talk to him about cricket. But we talked to him about his experience in the T20 World Cup, how it was playing in the US, how it was playing in the West Indies, how it felt making sure that the team qualifies for the Super 8, beating Pakistan, how it feels knowing that they've secured a spot in the next T20 World Cup as well, and just talking about the overall cricket scene here, MLC, what it brings, and how it is for him to be rubbing shoulders with the likes of Ricky Ponting, Glenn Maxwell, Travis Head, Steve Smith, right? It was a great experience chatting with him about those kinds of things. Thank you, Saurabh, once again for taking that time and being generous enough with your time to talk to us about it. And, we really appreciate the time that you spent with us. Similarly, we got a chance to chat with another US player, Harmeet Singh, as well. Also, Nitish Kumar, we spent some time chit-chatting with him. So it was great to kind of, get that opportunity to talk to some of these players. But the biggest ones of all was an opportunity that some of us got from my team to sit and chat with Andre Russell and Unmukh Chand. And what just turned out to be a quick, exchange of pleasantries, just saying hi and, asking Andre Russell to pose for a picture with us, taking a couple of selfies, quickly turned into a longer conversation. And one thing led to another, and in a few minutes, Unmukh Chand was there at the hotel as well. So we ended up, making a bigger conversation out of it. And lo and behold, before you know it, we had spent more than an hour and a half just talking, like four of us, like me and three of my friends from my cricket team that I play with. So the four of us chatting with Andre Russell and Unmukt Chand for more than an hour and a half. So it is such an incredible and satisfying feeling when you're able to get these kind of opportunities. And this is the exact same thing I told Andre Russell that day as well. I told, look, Andre, man, we are all from India, but if the same thing was happening in India, we couldn't, touch you with a 50-foot pole, for example, while you were playing the IPL. It's very hard logistically for us to even, think of getting an opportunity like this to meet some of our favorite players anywhere else, I think, outside of the US. So I feel like it's an absolute privilege, and a lot of people probably still don't realize how lucky we've been as residents here in Morrisville to be able to get these kind of opportunities to spend some quality time talking to some of these players. And man, during that conversation with Andre Russell and Unmukt Chand, we touched upon God knows what kind of topics, everything cricket related, obviously, everything from his initial days at Delhi Capitals, where Unmukt Chand also played. So they were actually teammates at one point there at Delhi. And then, Andre's switch to KKR, how that came about, everything from fitness regimes to genetics, how different body types kind of and how different ethnicities kind of play a role in people's metabolism and whatnot. And this, you're hearing about this from elite international athletes in person. That experience, you cannot really put a price on it. So anyway, so we were all very, very grateful for those kind of opportunities, and for that reason alone, I hope and pray that MLC comes back to Morrisville again next year. But yeah, all in all, just to sum things up, I guess, a very successful tournament once more. Like I said, I think logistically, if they can get things sorted with the floodlights and stuff, hopefully we'll go back to playing some evening matches here at Morrisville as well, which makes it a better experience for the viewers watching on TV as well. Because even, folks watching at home, nobody's going to be available to watch these games at 3 p.m. on a weekday. So hopefully they can address some of these challenges before some of these other stadiums prop up. But until then, hopefully we can keep getting a few more games here at Morrisville. But yeah, that's my summary of the tournament. Absolutely incredible experience, both from a cricketing standpoint, quality of cricket. But for us, some of us here who were able to locally attend the matches and meet some of those players, absolutely mind-blowing experience. And I still cannot put into words what that means for someone like me who is such a diehard cricket fan and really wants to learn and understand and just kind of get into their minds a little bit as to what's going through their minds and what kind of challenges and hurdles they faced in their life, etc. So yeah, absolutely incredible experience. And I think with that, I will wrap up my video. Thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in, and I really hope you like this video, this kind of content. Please do share this channel with your friends. I would really love to see more and more people kind of hearing or learning about this channel. I will continue posting about my analysis and previews and reviews about other tournaments as well happening around the world. But in addition to that, I will also try and do some more coverage on some of my own cricket that I play here locally. So I'll probably do a little bit of coverage for some of the local cricket here happening as well. But thank you once again for all your support. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.